Daily Tech News Show is made possible by you, the listener. I'm in all of your ears, whether it's 1, 2, or more. Thanks to all of you, including Hector Bones, Dan Crafton, Tim Ashman, and Gordon Edwards. On this episode of DTNS, X makes likes private. That sounds like something else, but X has made likes private. Wacom uses a blockchain to protect artists from AI, and Scott Johnson reports in on the iPad M4. This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
In Salt Lake City, I'm Scott Johnson.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
X makes like private. It's like a 40s movie, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't. And a lot of people don't think it sounds good. We're going to discuss that and more. Let's start with the quick hits.
YouTube is rolling out a new thumbnail testing feature to creators called Thumbnail Test and Compare in the coming weeks. The idea is that creators can upload 2 thumbnails for a single video and then test them evenly across their viewership. Those thumbnails being tested will appear for different users with stats going back to the creator on how long the thumbnail influenced, how many people watched a video, how long they watched, and more. After a few days, YouTube will determine a winner if engagement's results are clear, or just recommend a preferred choice for the creator to decide for themselves.
Speaking of air quotes, Waymo issued a recall of its software after one of its unoccupied vehicles hit a telephone pole at 8 miles an hour in Phoenix last month. The recall just means it has alerted the U.S. NHTSA that its 672 cars have been updated to correct for the issue. So they disclose all the software updates, why they did it, and all that sort of thing. Vehicle hit a pole in an alley. That alley had nothing but a yellow line to mark where a line of telephone poles were, and those poles were level with the road. They weren't like up on a curb. The software treated it as a low damage situation, so the software update has upgraded that. Waymo has issued one previous recall in February. You may remember that one. 2 of its vehicles inaccurately predicted the movement of a towed vehicle in that case.
I got to tell you, after I think a few weeks ago when I said that I saw my first Waymo vehicle in my neighborhood is clearly part of a new Waymo test. It's like every 5 cars.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Waymo. Welcome to Arlington Heights. Stable Diffusion Medium is the latest release from Stability AI, intended to be a smaller model that can run on consumer-grade GPUs. Medium is designed to make Stable Diffusion 3 an even better option for users or organizations with resource constraints. Stable Diffusion Medium available today for users to try out through Stability AI's API and the Stable Artisan service on Discord. The model weights will also be available for non-commercial use on Hugging Face.
Ex-CEO Elon Musk, he's the current CEO of a company called X, withdrew his lawsuit against OpenAI. He had sued OpenAI and 2 of the company's co-founders, Sam Altman and Greg Brockman. The judge was about to hear OpenAI's request for dismissal on Wednesday, but he has withdrawn the suit before that. This is the one over breach of contract, even though there was no formal contract. So it wasn't entirely ridiculous, but it was a stretch. Meanwhile, the billionaires carried out their spat in the court of public opinion. Musk called iOS 18 a security violation for including ChatGPT integration. And at a Fortune-sponsored event, OpenAI CTO Mira Murati said, well, that's his opinion.
404 Media reports that an attacker broke into systems used by tracking company Tile, including a tool that processes location data requests for law enforcement, and stole a large amount of customer data, such as names, physical addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers, according to samples of the data and screenshots of the tools that was seen by 404 Media. The data doesn't include location of Tile devices themselves, though, and that would be the big one. The attacker does tell 404 Media they demanded payment from Tile before the breach became public, but did not receive a response. comments.
Yeah. Please help spread understanding by letting your friends and relatives know it was not the location data, because everybody's going to see this headline and be like, oh, they stole the location. I mean,
Yeah,
not that it's great.
That I went to the hospital.
Yeah. It's not great to have name, physical address, email address, phone number, but also, sadly, those are probably already out there from other breaches in a lot of cases. So, you know how that goes.
Indeed. All right, so let's talk about X. X, the social network, used to be called Twitter. We all know it as X now. X announced in a post from its official engineering account that this week it will no longer be offering who liked a post on the platform to be public information. So, if I post something, I say, I like cheese. I, as the poster, can see who liked my post. Tom may have liked the post. He likes the post, I like cheese. I see it, and Tom, as somebody who liked the post, also has that in his records of likes. Scott, though, cannot see that Tom liked my post saying I like cheese. He can see that there's a like, and maybe lots of other people liked it. Maybe there are 300 likes on this post. But he doesn't know that Tom now has liked my post. Hopefully that makes sense. CEO Elon Musk says this change is in an effort to let people like posts without getting attacked for doing so. Okay, not every post is all that political. Me liking cheese doesn't seem to, be a needle mover all that much to me, but you never know. X originally launched this feature to hide the likes tab for X premium subscribers last year. So there are some people out there being like, well, we could already do this. You could do that as a premium subscriber. For people on free accounts, you couldn't. But I wanted to poll the group on how we feel about this, because I cannot think of really any situation where I would like something and not want the world to know that I liked it.
I mean, I think this is cases like first of all, it's easy for anybody to hear about any of these changes, as we've alluded to, and go conspiracy, or there's this reason or that reason, or apply other reasons to it. We don't know where this came from in the company. We don't know who's asking for it. But we do know that they're going to implement it. Here's who I think this works for. If you are somebody who, let's say you're in a high political office. I'm not going to use any names, but let's say that's who you are. And you like a post that maybe is a little salacious, perhaps pornographic. I don't know. And you like it with a big heart. Boop, you hit it. And maybe you didn't even mean to. Maybe it just, whoops, I guess I did click that or whatever. And this has happened before in a couple of notable situations. Sure. Those people will obviously benefit from nobody knowing that they liked a thing, except for the people that liked it. And I suppose they could still expose that and make noise about it, given the status of the person. But I think this cuts down on maybe accidental likes, that sort of thing. But I'm with you in spirit in the idea that I cannot think of a situation where it would matter to me. I guess it's still good that we have the currency of likes as a thing I can see totals of, and we also have it as a way for the people who got the like to know that they got liked by you. The transactional nature of the likes is still sort of there. It's just we're not giving strangers the same access they used to have to those individual likes.
There's so much context when it comes to, social networks in general, but, the old days of Twitter. If I, going back to I like cheese, that's a dumb tweet, right? That means nothing. But what if it means something? Who liked my tweet? That is contextual information. If Tom and Joe Biden and, I don't know, the Dalai Lama, all like the tweet, it's ooh, what did she mean? Let's get more into what, Sarah's talking about here. For that tweet to get, 3 likes, as it should, if not 0, that would be normal. But what if it got 4,000? You'd be like, what's going on here? But I don't know. I don't know who's behind what, the sort of amplification, I think, of whatever I'm saying. Whatever the statement is almost, irrelevant. It's the amplification, I think, that has a lot of people's, kind of scratching their heads.
I don't see why there's any problem with this. First of all, they're taking a paid service and making it free, which is what everybody always wants them to do. And second of all, when's the last time any of you on any platform looked at who liked a post that wasn't yours?
It's been a while. If they're big public ones, like I don't know, I think Sarah has a point to like. Is this just bots? Is this?
I
like
definitely
real
do that
people?
with my own stuff.
Sure,
Sometimes I do
they're not taking that away.
sometimes I
You
do
can
it with
still see it
something-
with your own stuff.
Right. But if you were, I guess I see your point, Tom. Is it would be controversial, right? Because something that I consider controversial, I'd be like, who liked this? Like where are people? What side are they on? Kind of thing.
There's plenty-
that may be a great reason to just sort of decimate that.
There's plenty of other ways to detect bots. That is the one legitimate thing I can see is like, oh, if this got 4,000 likes, if I can see who liked it, I would be able to tell if a lot of them look like bots maybe. But again, I don't think most users are doing that either. And there's other ways to prevent that. The platform should prevent that. And there are lots of examples of, forget the porn example that Scott used. There's a product that's been boycotted. And I am either less aware of that or forgot and like a post from that brand, and a bunch of people come at me because I liked that post. It's a chilling effect, and it's going to make people like stuff less. This will allow people to be like, you know what, I can like what I like, and only the person I'm liking is going to see it, and I don't have to worry about it. I also don't think that was a huge problem, but okay, fine. I think maybe we can all agree that in this case, X is a teapot. Or a teacup, and this is a tempest. That's it.
A little bit. It feels like a thing that...
Yeah.
Teacup.
Whenever you take something or seem to be taking something away, people just lose their minds, and I don't know how you avoid that.
Well, and then there's a multiplier effect of people who want to not like X, and so they're going to try to...
Well, and
that.
I think that's what a lot of this has to do with is just sort of like, you're just ruining this thing that I used to like.
Yeah.
And it has further become different than the thing that I originally liked.
Because I'm with you.
I'm in that camp.
I've never minded people seeing what I like, but that's also like, well, if you have nothing to hide, then you don't have to worry about it. So I also don't mind that they're taking that away. It's not really a big deal either way for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never liked something and been like, but if the wrong person sees that I liked it, it's curtains for me.
I don't think most people
like it. Then.
I don't think most people think that. I think they like something and then people come after them. That happens a lot. And
right.
Thankfully, it hasn't happened
they don't
to me
realize
yet,
how these things work.
Let's talk about a use for blockchain. Hold on. It's not NFTs. just bear with me. I know I'm naive, but I keep thinking there might be another use that isn't a fraud for blockchain. And Wacom, the tablet makers, have come up with a candidate for this. Wacom Yuify, spelled Yuify, is in beta testing with Adobe. It's a service that lets artists record ownership of their work on a blockchain that therefore is very difficult to change, if not almost impossible to change. And that lets them control use of their images because there's an indelible record of their ownership. The idea would be that you make your image in compatible software, say Photoshop, since Adobe's working with them. You export it as a JPEG or a PNG to Yuify. Yuify adds a micromark, a few non-destructive pixels to the image, and that micromark is linked to a record on the Yuify blockchain. Artists can then use a license builder tool to use Yuify to control the terms of use for the image. So they can say, anybody can use this, or they can say, oh, no, you got to pay a license fee, and then the blockchain will allow you to use it legally. Again, this is not a measure to prevent piracy. You can rip those pixels out. There would be lots of ways to do it. It's not trying to be DRM. It's trying to show ownership and also authorship. If you're concerned about whether something is made by a human or not, this will help you determine, oh, it really was made by a human. Wacom Yuify is available as a plugin for Photoshop. A beta version is coming shortly to Rebel 7, and Clip Paint Studio will get it at the end of June. And you do not need to use a Wacom tablet to take advantage of it. Scott, if anybody doesn't know, Scott's an artist. Do you think you would find this useful?
It's a step in the right direction. I actually really like that it's coming from Wacom. For those that say Wacom, it's okay. They forgive you. It doesn't matter, honestly. But here's the thing. this is a step in the right direction. The idea that this plugin will be available for flagship products like Photoshop makes sense at first, but soon after other platforms, other software, other apps, that sort of thing, that all makes sense too. And I think it's cool they're spearheading it. And it actually really represents, I think, a legitimate use case for this technology and should help artists in general. However, I don't know that it's entirely enough. As it stands right now, I could go to any image search, find somebody's art, download it, and then upload it again to this plugin and claim ownership on the blockchain. I think that's dangerous. It could work itself out over time because if enough images have the ownership, then you can't just simply pull down somebody else's image and do it. And like you said, Tom, there are ways around it, but that's why I see this as a step, a very good step, but a step nonetheless in the right direction, maybe not the full solution. There may never be a full solution to this because we were talking about bits and pixels, not pickles. There's no pickles involved.
Bits and pickles. Delicious.
And as a result, there's so much that can be faked, remade, redone, fooled, that sort of thing. And time will tell whether we come up with technologies to better control all of that. But like I say, it's good. Artists need better options in this direction. This is a start, at least. And if it does anything, I think it'll spawn a bunch of plugins, and maybe other plugins will have some other cool ideas that they're not thinking of. Like it's a good move. It is not a move that's going to cost you money. You're not going to pay Wacom for this. You don't even have to buy their tablet. And it's also just good PR for them because they've kind of slipped in recent years in terms of usership. There's a lot of, Surface Pros and iPad Pros and various other tablets from China that are very competitive, faster, those sorts of things. And Wacom slipped a bit in market share. To have this, have their name on this and be pushing for this is really good. I don't know, good PR for them with artists.
How do you feel about Wacom, Wacom, however you like to say it? At this point, sure. Scott, knowing that there are other alternatives, I mean, is that still the industry standard? I
mean, in a lot of ways, yes. When we say industry, it kind of depends on what you're talking about. But if you're looking at, like, let's say an animation studio in Japan or Korea that's doing a bunch of animation for, say, The Simpsons or something, which is how those shows are made. Those places are chock full of computers with Wacom tablets. They are the standard, but that is starting to chip away when it comes to like individual artists and those who are, maybe they're simply doing commissions or something. There is definitely a pull away from the very expensive hardware that you can buy from Wacom and moving on to other things that are less expensive, a little more accessible, that sort of thing. iPad Pros being the biggest culprit in this regard. All of that being said, though, I think it does them more good than bad to get out ahead of some of these other things that have nothing to do with sales of their device. It's more about, hey, we're in this community. We're part of this. We're intrinsic to it. Wouldn't it be cool if artists could have better control over their own work? Here's a start at trying to do that. And I think that's great that they did it.
Well, folks, there's lots of ways to get your tech news. We like that you use This Way, Daily Tech News Show, as a podcast, but I know some of you also like to read a little bit of a newsletter. There's a bunch of them out there. Maybe you should try mine. If you like my perspective on tech news and you'd like more of it, it can land in your inbox every morning. I've made a free preview of my tech newsletter for subscribers all this week. Usually everybody gets it free on Thursday. This week, everybody gets it free every day. Today, there's a story about a man who is running for mayor of Cheyenne, Wyoming as a chatbot. There's also a big story about the Pew Research Center's survey on where people get their news on social media. If you want my takes on those, go sign up right now. freetechnewsletter.com. Apple released the iPad Pro M4 less than a month ago now, and it is the first device to have the M4 processor, the Ultra Retina XDR display. The iPad Pro M4 has the same processing power as the M2, but uses half the power, and it has a new neural engine, which delivers 38 TOPS, more than double what the M1 and M2 can do. Now, that's going to be handy with the new iPad OS that's coming later this year. But Scott, you got your iPad Pro M4 last week, so you don't have the new versions of iOS that were announced at the beginning of this week. What are your hands-on impressions of it so far?
Well, I am looking forward to the AI stuff. I'm looking forward to getting public. I'll even probably try beta when it's public. Currently, the dev beta seems to be received really well on iPad OS, like very stable, very solid, from what I've heard. But I don't have a dev account, so I can't do it yet. When I do, definitely going to have more to say a little bit later on, right here on the show and elsewhere. But here are some of my early impressions. There are big changes to this device. First of all, it's very thin. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but that is a very thin device.
Really hard to tell in audio, too.
Yeah, that's true. You guys at home who can't see this, very thin. I
will tell you it looks very thin.
It is very
I second that.
You stack your phone up next to it, it seems even more thin. But anyway, it is
a svelte tablet.
It's a very thin tablet. That is not why I got it, though. The big reasons are a number of things. Number one is the screen. I went with the micro texture upgrade on the screen. And the reason I did that is...
I was curious about that.
A couple of reasons. One is there's zero glare on this thing. I can look at it from any angle in any light, and I get no glare, and it's pretty impressive. I didn't expect that to be as cool, although I will say this device gets finger smudges way more than the glass ones do. It's okay.
That surprises me because, I mean, what's more smudgy than a glass screen?
Well, it's really simple. The micro texture is literally that, and it is a very small texture. It's very hard to perceive with your eyes, but as a result, it holds more oils, more smear, more whatever. And it's actually, if you take like a wet cloth, which is what I used to do on my 5th gen, and try to wipe that off, it doesn't actually work. So if you use a micro cloth like one of these you get with your glasses or any device really with a screen, these work great, no problem. It's not like it doesn't ruin the experience.
It's not the end of the world, but something to consider.
No. Interesting.
Yeah, it's just something to know. But anyway, the biggest difference is that anti-glare, but also the performance of the pen, the Pencil Pro, which I also picked up with this. You have to if you want to use a pencil. The Pro only works with the Pro. Is not quite paper in terms of drag, but much closer to that. And I think this is going to make it so a lot of artists are not going to want to go out and buy the texture overlay that you can buy. You can buy these clear overlays that stick on there almost like a screen protector, and they provide more texture. The problem with those are they tend to wear the pen down, so your nibs get small depending on how much you're using it, how hard you're pushing, that sort of thing. This micro texture screen is just enough of that to give it a little bit more in the direction of paper or Bristol board and pull it away from that feeling of just drawing plastic on glass. Which again is fine, but it's not it doesn't feel the best, especially if you're not used to it. I really like that so far. Performance-wise, on that actual aspect of it, the art, the drawing, the using the pen to create, very good. In fact, kind of blew my mind good. The performance I thought would feel nominally faster, and I would notice it, but I didn't expect to have it be immediately and substantially faster. With all the kind of use cases I have for it, especially drawing. Exporting files take a fraction of the time that my M2 model did. It is kind of, honestly, I'm a little blown away by all that stuff. Everything flies now, app performance, load times, anything that needs a load time. Those are the biggest boosts. Procreate alone, which I use mostly for my art and illustration, blazing fast. And as far as I know, they've barely done any updates to this app since this thing came out to take advantage of anything. The only thing I've noticed is
it's
the pen
device itself.
If I hover over with the new pencil, I do get some functionality I didn't used to get. For example, if I have a grouping of the way they do these is almost like folders, but they're groups of art you kind of stacked on top of each other for organizational purposes. When I hover over it, they kind of fan out and I get to see them all. If I hover over a drawing I've done, it will change from just the static image to here's the replay of the art that you drew in like an animated form, which is a thing we could already export as, but now this is giving you real-time previews, and it's only happening with the new pencil. Beyond that, though, in terms of that Pencil Pro, it's the least changed thing. Latency, way better. I can't tell if that's the pencil or the device being so fast or a combination of the two. My guess is it's the third option. I don't really know. It's hard to say. The squeeze feature, which you can feel, it's like a haptic squeeze. I'm feeling it right now.
I know you were sort of about that squeeze feature when you first saw it announced.
Yeah, now I'm getting actually to use it. This is something in like Apple Notes. They've got a way to hit that, and you can change marker size and type and point size and all this sort of thing. So there are use cases for this already. But in apps that I use, none of them have programmed anything in there or patched these to do much with it. So right now that stuff's kind of useless to me until someone shows me a way that it seems awesome. I think there's a lot of potential in here, but it's not showing up yet. What else was I going to say? The battery life is way better on this pencil than the previous one. Way better. And I don't know that they even advertised that or talked about it in their presentation, but I get way more life out of this than I did before. And that's big for, big long drawing sessions and that sort of thing. So very, very happy with that.
All right, what do you like about it so far? What's the biggest things? Obviously the speed increase, that's one thing. Anything else?
Yeah, I think for all the mission critical stuff like I do with Procreate, Clip Studio, which you mentioned earlier, with the blockchain stuff, the Affinity apps, all of these perform extremely well and fast without really any major updates. Again, this is the same current version of iPad OS everybody's using, and all of that stuff is immediately faster and better. The beta will really be the big test, or I guess even just the final version of iOS 18 when we get a chance, or iPad OS, I should say.
Yep.
When we really get a chance to see what the AI stuff does, I really wish the calculator thing was in here now, because that, quite frankly, was the most exciting thing they showed from their AI presentation in terms of just like, ooh, I want to fiddle with that, and I haven't had a chance, obviously. So those kinds of things are interesting to me. They'll come when they come. Overall, I'm very happy with it. This is not a cheap device, but it is also relatively inexpensive when compared to, the larger, more traditional Wacoms or other stuff out there. Not to throw them under the bus immediately after talking about them.
They're better at blockchain anyway.
Yeah, and it's also lighter. Lighter is helpful when you are used to sitting with this thing for a long period of time, doing a lot of work on it. Also, the camera bump is not nearly as thick as it was in previous iterations. So there's just little things like that are adding to my good time. And I have a Magic Keyboard coming, so I'll be able to talk about that when we do a little bit longer to live with it discussion.
Yeah.
But thus far, I'm very happy with it. And for what I need it for, like these mission critical art apps, huge upgrade. And that part was that took me back. I was afraid I was going to be like, oh well, I guess I'm getting AI. That's cool, I guess. But this is much faster than I expected.
Well, a good first take on the M4 iPad. But as Scott said, we want him to do a live with it once we spend a few months on it and gets the beta on it and all that. Maybe he'll even have played Baldur's Gate 3 on it by then. So patrons, keep an eye out for that. Let's check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. Martin wrote in saying, regarding the email about the storage on the new Xboxes, disk-based games are also fully installed to the hard drive. After install, the disk is essentially only used as a license to play the game. This is also true for PS4, PS5, and Xbox Ones. You can even use the Xbox mobile app to download the game to the Xbox without purchasing the digital version, and then insert the disk to start the game. For clarity, the disc needs to be inserted the whole time you're playing, but the game itself is not read from the disc, other than if you install it from the disc. Therefore, the amount of storage a player would want would be the same whether they have the digital or physical version of the console. And in either case, Microsoft will be happy to sell you a memory card for additional storage.
Thank you, Martin. Mike in Dubai also wrote in with a similar email, and you're right, and I know Nate knew that when he wrote his question, but it still sort of leaves open the question of, okay, that's fine, Martin. You said it yourself. Your need for storage would be the same. So why give double the storage to the one that has the disk slot in it? Scott, could you shed any light on that?
Well, I watched the event very carefully, and what was considered overall like one of Microsoft's best presentations, this was the head scratcher for me, because I don't think it makes any sense to release a diskless version and a disked version, giving the disk more space. They may think that makes it seem like more of a premium buy.
I guess so.
That's probably why they did it. But I also have not a conspiracy theory. I have a theory that they really would like to sell expansions. And those expansion keys that they sell are very cool. They're very fast. They support NVMe. They do all the performance stuff you need those things to do. But they're kind of expensive, and they're a great add-on if Microsoft can sell more. So I'm not saying that's exactly the reason they're doing it. But if you buy the diskless one, just be prepared to feel like maybe you want to use one of those or buy one of those too.
Yeah, interesting.
We'll see.
Also, Xander wrote in with a reason why they're excited for Apple's call transcription feature coming to iOS 18. Much like the recent video conferencing AIs that can pull meeting notes and action items after the call is done, this could be used to help project manage your personal life. Imagine taking a call from your doctor and being able to focus on the conversation and not having to split your attention to take notes. Afterward, you ask Siri to create an outline of the conversation with a summary, and you could even decipher future appointments to put on your calendar.
Nice. I like it.
Well, thanks to everybody who writes us. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com is where to send thoughts, questions, and anything else. Thanks to you, Scott Johnson, for being with us today. Let folks know what is your latest.
Well, our show Core, which happens at frogpants.com/core, happens every Thursday. It's a podcast as well as a live stream and a YouTube archive. That show is about to get crazy this week because we had a lot happen since we talked last. We had the Summer Fest Games event from Jeff Keighley. We had Microsoft's big event, Ubisoft Forward, and PC Game Show. Like a bunch of stuff went down, and we learned a bunch of new things, and a lot of it seems very cool. Everyone wants to talk about how the industry's in a bit of a dip, but based on some of these presentations, there is still some really rad stuff coming our way as gamers. So check it out. That's on Thursdays. Get the podcast wherever you get them, or head on over to frogpants.com/core.
Patrons, stick around for the extended show, Good Day Internet. The conversation goes on. Sarah is going to cover all the things Apple Sherlocked this week and explain what Sherlocked is.
But just a reminder, we do the show live Monday through Friday. You can catch it live at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We'll be back again doing it all tomorrow with Justin Robert Young joining us. We'll talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.